Good morning, happy sunrise, and also happy Thanksgiving, y'all. Today is Thanksgiving. I hope y'all are having a beautiful, beautiful day. I hope y'all had a great week. I hope y'all have an even greater Thanksgiving holiday. So being that we literally have like 2 more days left in November, I figured I would go ahead and do my November reading wrap up. I actually did surprisingly well this month because I was reading very, very slow. On top of the fact that November is always just a hectic month for me and my family. So I didn't expect to read as much as I did, but I actually got through 7 books. Let's get into it. I kind of was dibbling and dabbling in a couple of different genres, y'all. I read fantasy, I read a contemporary romance type of situation, I read dark mafia, and I also read like a comedy type of, I don't even know what genre it would fall under, but it was funny. First book of the month, I read The Keeper's Moon by M.L. Burns. Y'all may have heard me talk about this series a couple of times in some of my previous videos. She's also written The Hourglass Keeper and also The Dragon's Keeper. Those are the first 2 books in the series. The Keeper's Moon is actually a novella. I actually got it as an ARC read, so it's not out yet, but it actually will be dropping, I think, in like the next week or 2. So if you were interested in this series, since I've been talking about it, definitely go ahead and add that to your TBR. Now, I really can't say too much about this book, 1, because it's not out yet, and also 2, because it would be a big spoiler from The Dragon's Keeper, okay? So if you've read this series and you know how The Dragon Keeper spills a lot of tea, this would be like a bit of a deeper dive into the tea that was spilled, okay? So I really can't say too much, but just know I loved this book to my core. The MMC in this book has got to be hands down one of my all-time favorite MMCs ever written on paper, okay? The best paper boyfriend that you could ever have. I love him down, okay? I can't say too much, but it does take a deeper dive into the love relationship between him and our leading lady, who is Azaharu. And it kind of goes back and forth between present time and past time. They're kind of like laid up, caked up, booed up, you know, just talking it out, just talking about things. And he's just basically going down memory lane in all of these different timelines where he's done different things that she wasn't even aware of. He's just always been around, being her protector, her savior, her lover, like whatever it was that she needed from him, he was that. Even if she was unaware that he was the one that was doing these things for her. It was just such, y'all, it was such a beautiful story. Oh my goodness, it was such a beautiful story. I love him so much. I can't wait to put him on my shelf. So if you're into fantasy or romantasy rather, I would definitely suggest getting into the Keeper series. The only thing is, of course, it is a little bit on the darker side. It does have some dark undertones. So if you're not a dark romantasy person, then it may not be for you. But for those that enjoy fantasy and also dark romance, I feel like this will be a beautiful series for you to get into, okay? Moving right along, the next couple of books I read was actually a series, okay? This particular series is the Dark Kingdom series by Chantel Tessier. Now, if you've been following me for a minute and you've been watching my videos, you already know, y'all know how I go about Chantel, okay? She is literally one of my all-time favorite dark romance writers, hands down. Her plots, her storylines, the characters, the trauma that she writes about, the emotional roller coaster ride that she puts you through, she deserves her crown, okay? Let me start there. I have done reading vlogs on the Lord series, and the Dark Kingdom series is actually a spin-off, or the Lord series rather is a spin-off of the Dark Kingdom series. The Dark Kingdom series was written in her earlier stages, and if you're a Chantel Tessier fan, you can recognize the changes, okay? Her writing style is very similar, but you can definitely see the growth from how she used to write once upon a time and how she writes now. It honestly is a big difference. With it saying all of that, I will have to say I was not a huge fan of the Dark Kingdom series. I wasn't, and I hate that for me because I stand for Chantel. As you can see, I love her books, but I just wasn't a fan of this particular series. The only reason I went into reading this series was because some of the characters that were mentioned in this series was mentioned in the last 2 installments in the Lord series. So I was like, I need to know who these guys are. I need to know what their story is, how they came about, how does it connect, all of the things. My personal opinion, I don't really feel like you have to read this series to enjoy the Lord series. I don't really feel like it's needed. If you want some extra background on these particular characters, then yeah, sure, go for it. But I don't really feel like it's needed. The first book is Code of Silence, and this one follows Luca as the MMC and also Haven as the FMC. If I'm being completely honest, y'all, I hated this book. This one was literally my least favorite of the entire series. I hated this book so much. I hated the characters. I couldn't resonate with what they had going on. It was just a lot. It was just a lot going on. Luca was very manipulative, in my opinion. He liked to play off of her emotions, and it was just, he was doing a lot. And then Haven on the other end, she was broken, okay? It's like this man ruled her life. She ate and slept and breathed Luca. And when they had to be separated for whatever reason, it's like she just lost herself. She lost her identity. She just could not function without this man. And I'm just like, over a man, sis? Like, please, stand up, you know? And not too much shade, because I feel like as women, we have had that one relationship that we was just literally sliding down the wall, ugly, crying, fighting for our life. So it's really no judgment in that aspect, but at the same time, it's just, I personally love strong women. I don't mind reading about women that are, you know, they have their lows, they're dealing with their trauma, they're, you know, coming out of a hard space. Like, I like reading that just for the character development. But for your whole entire identity to be based around this man, it's a no for me, dog. What I will say is I did enjoy their relationship despite not liking them, okay? You can tell the love between them was real. Okay, it was real love. They were high school sweethearts. They, like, the love that they had for one another was definitely genuine. So that's what made me keep reading the book, just to see what was going to happen towards the end, was the relationship. You could tell the love was real. But them as characters and their character traits, I hated it. Hated it. The next book was Titan, and Titan, I would say, is the leader of the group, so to speak. He's the most, I don't want to say the most mature, but it's kind of giving he's the most mature. He's the one that, you know, brings them together. He's the glue of the group, if you will. But this book, of course, follows his storyline, and the FMC in this book is Emily. I actually enjoyed this book a lot better than I enjoyed Code of Silence. However, I didn't really believe the romance between him and Emily. It didn't do it for me. It felt forced. It didn't feel genuine. I'll say that. I did like them together. I enjoyed them being together. I just didn't believe what they was putting down. It just wasn't believable, you know? The third book in the series was Grave, and Grave is the hothead of the group, the wild card. And if I must say, Grave was actually one of my favorites out of all of the men, and it was actually one of my favorite books out of the entire series. Grave he was a troubled soul. I'll say that. Grave was a troubled soul, but he was the one that was the most loving, the most understanding, and the most in tune with his emotions. And I feel like that's why he acted out the way that he did. And he turned to the bottle, or he turned to drugs and things of that nature. The FMC in this book was April. I loved them together. I loved them together. They were very, very cute. The love was, you know, very, very real. And the storyline was very interesting because it wasn't a storyline that Chantel usually does. Like, a lot of her stuff, you know happens in real life, but at the same time you know that it's fictional. In this particular book, it was giving real life. Like he was really battling like inner demons and trying to be a better man, not only for himself but also for April. So I really enjoyed the twist. You know, it wasn't something that I usually read from Chantel. So the fact that it was given more like real life scenarios of you just battling through your addictions and things like that, it was an interesting read. This one was definitely one of my favorites. The fourth book followed Cross and Alexis. Alexis is the FMC. I like this book too. However, I feel like Cross got robbed of his story. And that's why I kind of gave this one a lower rating, because I did like Cross's character. And I also really enjoyed Alexis's character, because Alexis was a badass, okay? She was not taking shit from nobody. She was very confident, very, you know, in tune with self. I really enjoyed her character. But I feel like their storyline was robbed because a lot of their storyline was based on their friendship with Grave and April, which was the characters in the previous book. Grave and Cross were best friends, and also April and Alexis were best friends. So it heavily focused on their friendship with them because they were more so sneaking around. It was like a forbidden romance, I'll say that. Grave didn't want them to be together for whatever reason. And the book just heavily focused on their connection with Grave and April, and also whatever Grave and April had going on within their relationship. So I feel like Cross was kind of robbed of his own storyline and his own, you know, us really getting to know him as a character, because the book was still so heavily focused on the previous characters. So I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all, because I really did like Alexis and Cross, and I feel like they deserved a little bit more in their story. Last book follows Bones and Mia, and I won't say too much about Mia because it would be a big spoiler from some of the earlier books in the series. So I don't want to say too much in case anybody actually wants to get into this series. But I will say Mia was a badass as well. Okay, I loved Bones. Bones was my favorite book, and Grave was my second favorite. And ironically enough, Bones and Grave were actually blood brothers throughout this series. So it's of course interesting that the books that I love the most would be the ones that involve the brothers. But either way it goes, Bones was definitely like the mysterious one of the group. He was very like to himself. He's the grumpy one of the group, I'll say that. He's the one that is he just always looks angry. He always looks upset. He's about business. He ain't really trying to be out and kiki with y'all. He's trying to go to work, go home. He, you know, handle business. That's the type of vibes he was in, and he just did not play with nobody. And I'm not going to tell you who Mia is and how her character is connected to everybody, because again, that would be a spoiler. So I'm not going to do that. But I did enjoy Mia's character as well. Mia deserves so much better though. Like her story, her life story is crazy. So all in all, if y'all decide to get into this, definitely heed the trigger warnings, get into the trigger warnings, because every book has a little bit of something different, okay? It's different tropes in there. Forbidden love, forced proximity, you have the why choose trope in one of the books. It's a lot of different tropes. So, you know, addiction tropes, cheating tropes, just make sure you read the triggers if you're going to get into this specific series. And also understand that it is a dark romance, but it's also mafia based, okay? So expect gore and unaliving and things of that nature. Moving on, the next book that I read, or actually listened to, I listened to this one on Audible. It's called Stranded by Chris Bruno. And this Audible was, I came upon this by accident, okay? I found this Audible accidentally. I was having a rough ass day. Didn't really feel like reading a physical book or reading my Kindle. I just felt like moving around, needed to release some energy. And I was getting ready to do my, you know, my nightly duties, mom duties and things like that. So I was searching for Audible and I came across this one. What won me over is the fact that the narrators in this book was Taraji P. Henson and Tracy Ellis Ross. Like, what? Right? And then you also had other narrators that showed up. There was Whoopi Goldberg. There was, who else was in that book? I currently can't think of who else is in there, but there's a lot of A-list celebrities that are narrating in this book, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. So this book is more of like a comedy type of situation, and it basically follows, well, I can't think of their character names right now, so I'm gonna just call them Tracy and Taraji. It follows both of their stories. They were high school best friends, and they didn't necessarily grow apart, but you know, life starts lifing and things just start happening. Taraji's character basically is a single woman. She's living life, she's having fun, she's doing her thing. Tracy's character, she is married with children, she's a businesswoman, you know, whoop-de-whoop. So it's been 10 years since they've actually seen each other and been able to hang out and talk for real, or whatever the case may be. So they decided they're gonna go on a trip. They go on this trip and they go on a booze cruise, and the booze cruise ends up going down. I'll just say that. The boat ends up wrecking like some Titanic shit. So now they're stranded on this island, forced proximity, and now they have to basically hatch through their shit. You know, why they ended up falling apart, what happened, why is the relationship strained, so on and so forth. But the comedy throughout this book was like, it was hilarious. It was just so many different things that was going on throughout the book with different characters that were popping in and out. It was a great time. I definitely chuckled a lot throughout this book. So if this is something that y'all are interested in, if you need like a little comedic relief, I would definitely suggest going ahead and getting out them headphones and pulling up this Audible and listening to this, because it definitely was a good time. The last book that I read is called Will You Be Ours? And this particular one is a why choose romance. It follows a married couple who is looking for a third to add into their relationship. Now, this particular book was poly done right, okay? So if you're into why choose, if you're into poly relationships, if you're into open relationships and things of that nature, I would definitely suggest getting into this book. It does have some spice in there. I mean, of course it does, it's why choose. So there is a little bit of spice in there, but it is a good read. I enjoyed it very much. The only thing that I wasn't a huge fan of is there is a little small miscommunication trope. I'm not a big fan of, that's one of the tropes that I just don't like. However, it wasn't so bad to the point to where you're ready to just DNF the book or toss the book across the room, okay? It wasn't given that. It was a very minor miscommunication that got handled fairly quickly throughout the book. So, you know, not too much, but I enjoyed it. This was literally poly done right. Every single person within this connection was very mature, emotionally mature, very open and vulnerable about what it was that they were expecting, what it was that they were wanting, so on and so forth. And it was a relationship where there is no ego involved, there's no obsessiveness, there's no possessiveness. The love is genuine, the love is flowing the way that it's supposed to be flowing. I literally ate this book up, and it's not even that long. It's not that long. I can't remember how many pages it's in it because I read it on my Kindle, but it was really a good read. I enjoyed it, but I am somebody that devours why choose. That's one of my favorite tropes, okay? I love me a why choose or a poly or a reverse harem type of book, okay? That's my cup of tea. Get into it, don't get into it, solely up to you. Okay, y'all, those are all the books that I read throughout the month of November. I might do another video later on about the books that I kind of want to get into for the Christmas season, being that we're creeping up on December now. I don't really have a whole lot of time to do that in this video because me and my family's actually hosting Thanksgiving. So I gotta go ahead and get ready, go ahead and start heating up this food and prepping and getting ready for everybody to come over to the house. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this video here. I thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for constantly supporting. And of course, if you enjoyed the vibes, please subscribe, okay? I would love for y'all to like, comment, share, and just constantly keep pouring into the channel so I can continue to pour into y'all, all right? With all that being said, I love y'all so very much, and I will catch y'all in the next video, okay? Bye.